Tucked away behind high hedges and winding Cotswolds lanes stands a royal secret few ever see. A towering 26-foot ceiling greets you at the entrance. Granite countertops gleam beneath soft downlights, and in the quiet hum of the English countryside, a princess has found something rare: peace. But why would a modern royal like Princess Beatrice retreat here, far from palaces and press? Today, we step inside her hidden mansion and into a life of quiet luxury, subtle power, and unexpected grace. She was born into history. At 8:18 p.m. on August 8, 1988, Princess Beatrice of York came into the world at Portland Hospital in London, the first child of Prince Andrew and Sarah Ferguson, and the fifth grandchild of Queen Elizabeth II. But even as cameras flashed and headlines proclaimed her arrival, no one could have predicted the twists her royal life would take. Her name wasn't announced for nearly 2 weeks, an early sign that Beatrice would always do things in her own time, her own way. Growing up, she was the red-haired elder sister to Eugenie, the quieter royal who often stood just outside the media storm. And when her parents divorced when she was only 7, Beatrice saw firsthand how public love could turn into tabloid fodder. So how does a child born into palaces and portraits grow into the woman she is today? It starts with resilience. At just 7 years old, Beatrice was diagnosed with dyslexia. In a family of formal speeches and public readings, it could have been a shadow. But she turned it into a spotlight. She spoke openly about the struggle. She took a year longer to sit for her GCSEs, and she used her voice to advocate for children facing the same challenge, long before vulnerability became fashionable. At St. George's School in Ascot, she became head girl, starred in school plays, and sang in the choir. When other royals might have leaned on legacy, she leaned into effort. And that's what carried her to Goldsmiths, University of London, where she studied history and history of ideas, earning a respectable 2:1 degree. But perhaps the biggest twist came when Beatrice stepped beyond the palace walls into the real world. She interned at Selfridges, worked briefly at Sony Pictures, joined the Foreign Office's press department for unpaid experience. There was no royal shortcut, no hand-carved path, only learning. Then came affinity. Beatrice, known professionally as Beatrice York, rose to become Vice President of Strategic Partnerships at the AI-powered enterprise tech company. It wasn't a ceremonial title. She ran initiatives, led global forums, and built programs connecting executives with women in leadership. It was here she found her rhythm, blending royal influence with modern impact. From London to New York, she split her time, speaking at conferences, working with firms like Scale AI and Liontree Asset Management, and eventually co-founding BuyEck Limited, a consultancy focused on emotional intelligence in an AI-driven world. And just recently, in 2025, she took her boldest step yet. Together with Luis Alvarado Martinez, a former World Economic Forum executive, Beatrice founded Purpose Economy Intelligence Limited, a company developing smart software and consulting for households and businesses, navigating an increasingly automated society. Who would have thought a princess known for quirky hats and childhood shyness would become a quiet voice in the future of human-centered technology? But that's Beatrice. She may have been born into royal lineage, but she carved out her own modern crown, made not of gold but of grit, grace, and forward-thinking. And perhaps that's why she doesn't live in a grand London estate or gilded palace. Instead, she chose the countryside. She chose Cotswolds. She chose privacy over pomp, oak beams over chandeliers, and bird song over balcony waves. But what makes this hidden mansion so meaningful, so magnetic? Let's step inside. Estate in Cotswolds. Far from the flashbulbs of Buckingham Palace and the grey drizzle of London, there's a quiet cul-de-sac in the Cotswolds where time seems to slow. It's here, beyond a row of ancient hedges and behind a wrought iron gate, that Princess Beatrice has found something few royals truly own: anonymity. But step closer, because behind that gate, hidden on a beautifully landscaped acre of English countryside, is a house that tells a very different kind of royal story. A solid mahogany door marks the entrance, its weight both physical and symbolic. Cross the threshold, and you're met with a soaring 26-foot ceiling. The marble-finished foyer glows softly in the morning light. There's no red carpet here, just silence and space. Space to breathe, to think, to be. The floor is a seamless stretch of rich hardwood, cool under bare feet in summer, warm against soft slippers in winter. Intricate inlays, customized mosaics, and recessed lighting draw the eye upward and inward. The formal living room is a cathedral of calm, 18-foot ceilings, a natural stone fireplace built on its own foundation, and a sense that laughter lives here, but never too loudly. Family portraits whisper from the walls, and there's always a blanket folded just so, as if someone might curl up with a novel at any moment. Adjacent to the living space, French doors open to a dining room that seems to float in light. A 9-foot ceiling and floor-to-ceiling windows offer views of the garden. You can almost imagine a quiet Sunday lunch here. Beatrice, Eduardo, and little Sienna sharing roasted vegetables and stories from the week, with nothing but the rustle of trees to interrupt them. But it's the kitchen that anchors the home. Not a showpiece, but a sanctuary. English-style cherrywood cabinets with double-grain patterning wrap the walls, while a dazzling blue azure granite countertop catches the afternoon sun. A suite of Viking appliances stands beside a Sub-Zero refrigerator and a whisper-quiet Bosch 800 dishwasher. Every detail feels lived in. Every drawer handle, chosen. This isn't a palace kitchen. It's a working one. The kind where dinner is prepped with music in the background and a toddler's drawing taped to the fridge. Beneath the home, there's an unexpected surprise. A 13-tier basement, professionally constructed with dual-thickness concrete blocks. More than storage, it's a canvas. Perhaps a wine cellar? A home theater? Or simply a space for quiet retreat. It even has dual staircases, one from the main floor, another from the garage, designed for discreet access. Practical. Private. Perfectly Beatrice. Outside, the house is clad in distinctive English bond brick with strong cement mortar. There's a custom outdoor fireplace, designed to resemble a wine bottle. An architectural wink, maybe, to Beatrice's love of relaxed family evenings. Follow the decorative brick path, and you'll find the backyard. Not just a yard, a sanctuary. Fenced, secluded, lush. The patio stretches wide, made for yoga at dawn or wine at dusk. The pool, 10 feet deep, newly pumped, sparkles like a secret lagoon, inviting but quiet. This is not a place for parties. It's a place to rest, to renew, to raise a child without the weight of the crown. Here in the Cotswolds, Princess Beatrice has chosen softness over spectacle. Not because she's hiding, but because she's healing. Because sometimes even a princess needs a home where she's just Beatrice. In a world where royal titles often mean chauffeured rides and ceremonial carriages, Princess Beatrice stands apart. Her relationship with cars isn't about opulence, it's about quiet control, about moments behind the wheel where she's not a public figure, but just a woman with a destination. And each vehicle in her modest yet meaningful collection tells its own story. Cars. Bentley Flying Spur. Refined power with a royal pulse. With its W12 6.0-liter twin-turbocharged engine, the Bentley Flying Spur glides like a whisper, but carries the power of a storm. Delivering over 626 horsepower and accelerating from 0 to 60 miles per hour in just 3.7 seconds. This isn't just a luxury sedan, it's a modern-day chariot. But for Beatrice, it's more than numbers. It's the car she drives when heading to state occasions in Windsor, arriving without fanfare but with unmistakable presence. The soft leather seats, the hand-stitched interiors, it's the kind of luxury that doesn't need to shout. A car that mirrors her style. Quiet, precise, unapologetically British. Land Rover, Range Rover, all-terrain royalty. This isn't just a royal favorite, it's practically royal issued. With adaptive dynamics, terrain response systems, and an air suspension that adjusts seamlessly, the Range Rover is built for countryside drives that dip in and out of gravel, grass, and muddy estate paths. For Beatrice, it's her Cotswolds companion, the car she uses for weekend outings with Eduardo and Sienna, trips to the farmer's market, to the riding trails, or simply through the winding roads under ancient oak trees. Inside, there's room for a stroller, a picnic basket, and the kind of freedom that doesn't fit inside a palace. This car doesn't turn heads, it turns corners. And for a modern royal mom, that's perfect. BMW 1 Series. Where independence begins. It's the simplest of the three, but maybe the most telling. The BMW 1 Series was her first car, sleek, compact, and entirely hers. It was the car she drove as a student at Goldsmiths, often slipping through London traffic with a coffee in hand and a meeting to catch. It was the car she took to her early internships, where nobody called her Princess, only Beatrice. It wasn't about horsepower. It was about growing up, learning the city, making mistakes in roundabouts and celebrating first solo trips with her sister, Eugenie, riding shotgun. Even now, it may sit in the background of her garage, but it holds memories no luxury upgrade can replace. In a garage that balances elegance with understatement, every car serves a purpose. None are trophies. Together they form a portrait, not of royalty, but of freedom. Of a woman who chooses where she goes, how she gets there, and who rides beside her. But how does someone like Beatrice, with a modest royal role, afford this lifestyle? That's a story of quiet ambition and purposeful wealth. Her estimated net worth? Just around $1 million. For a member of the British royal family, it might seem modest, even surprising. But Princess Beatrice has never chased wealth for wealth's sake. She built her fortune through work, not inheritance. Her career spans continents and industries, from interning at Selfridges and Sony Pictures to shaping global AI partnerships at Affinity. She's held key roles at Scale AI, Lion Tree Asset Management, and now co-leads Purpose Economy Intelligence Limited, developing software for a new era of household and business optimization. Each paycheck was earned, each title held with purpose. And unlike other royals, she doesn't rely on taxpayer-funded security. That was quietly withdrawn in 2011. Since then, she's charted her own financial path, on her own terms. Her lifestyle is a reflection of that independence, not driven by diamonds or tabloid splendor, but by comfort, privacy, and intelligent design. The Cotswolds mansion. The Range Rover. The dinner parties lit by soft firelight. They weren't gifted. They were chosen. Philanthropy. Her first public act of compassion didn't involve a crown or a press release. It involved a pair of running shoes and a 26.2-mile race. In April 2010, Princess Beatrice quietly made history as the first royal to complete the London Marathon. She ran not for attention, but for children in crisis, a charity close to her heart. Her pace was steady, her motivation personal. And at the finish line, she wasn't just a princess. She was a woman running toward change. That moment sparked something deeper. Since then, Beatrice has become one of the most quietly committed philanthropists in the royal circle. A voice for the vulnerable. She serves as patron of Forget-Me-Not Children's Hospice, which supports children with life-shortening conditions across West Yorkshire and North Manchester. She doesn't just visit once for photos. She listens to stories. She remembers names. She's also an ambassador for Made by Dyslexia, a cause she understands intimately. Having grown up with the learning difference herself, she uses her platform to change perceptions, championing neurodiversity in schools and workplaces. In 2022, alongside her husband Eduardo, she attended the World Dyslexia Assembly in Sweden, hosted by Prince Carl Philip. For Beatrice, advocacy isn't abstract. It's personal. Creativity with a cause. In 2016, she teamed up with her mother, Sarah Ferguson, and sister Eugenie to create Royal Love, the first ever royal contemporary art collaboration with British artist Teddy MacDonald. Painted in the gardens of Royal Lodge, the piece was auctioned off at Masterpiece London, with all proceeds going to children in crisis. It wasn't just a painting. It was a statement that royalty can evolve, express, and give, all in one brushstroke. Global outreach, quiet impact. From supporting UNICEF through her iconic auctioned-off hat, yes, that unforgettable Philip Treacy fascinator from Prince William's wedding sold for £81,000, to championing cataract surgery in Nepal through the Jamgon Kongtrul Eye Center, Beatrice has traveled with purpose. She's not afraid to leave the palace bubble. In Laos, she ran a half-marathon to raise awareness for children's health. In India and Bhutan, she met with local leaders and educators, not as a royal dignitary, but as an advocate. Her work with Friends Without a Border, Kairos HQ, and Outward Bound Trust reflects a consistent truth. Beatrice believes the world doesn't need more princesses. It needs more participation. Big change, small steps. Beatrice is also the co-founder of Big Change, a charity born from 6 friends who wanted to shift the conversation around education. Rather than focusing on exams and rankings, the group supports young people in developing real-world resilience, empathy, and life skills. In 2012, she climbed Mont Blanc for it. In 2016, she tackled Mount Etna as part of the Virgin Strive Challenge with Sir Richard Branson and his children. Because for Beatrice, giving back isn't always a gala dinner. Sometimes it's a mountain. Sometimes it's a marathon. Always, it's a mission. Now, with all she's given, to children, to causes, to the future of learning, you might wonder, what does she keep for herself? What does a modern royal's daily life really look like? When the speeches are done, the shoes come off, and the garden gates close behind her? Let's step into her private world, personal life. When the front door closes behind her, when the heels come off and the house grows quiet, Princess Beatrice becomes simply Mummy, Bee, or just herself. Inside the Cotswolds mansion, her life slows to the rhythm of countryside winds and bedtime stories. She lives here with her husband, Eduardo Mapelli-Mozzi, a property developer with a love for architecture and meditation, and their daughter Sienna, born in 2021. Together, they've created something most royal families can only dream of: normalcy. Beatrice starts her mornings early, often walking Sienna through the garden paths behind the house. She's been spotted in Wellington boots and oversized sweaters, clutching coffee with both hands, hair still damp from the shower, pushing a pram past ivy-covered fences. Sometimes, she cooks breakfast. Other times, Eduardo handles it while Beatrice journals by the window, something she's done since her teens. Weekends are for farmers markets, antique bookshops, and playdates with cousins from Eugenie's side of the family. They avoid press-heavy events unless absolutely necessary, choosing instead to host intimate dinners by the outdoor fireplace, wrapped in wool blankets as the stars peek through the clouds. At night, Beatrice reads aloud to Sienna. Her favorite? The Little Prince. She once said in an interview that the book taught her how to love gently and listen with your heart, values she now passes on to her daughter. There's a stillness to this life, not a retreat, but a choice. To live slowly, to live intentionally, to live surrounded by peace, not protocol. Every detail of their home reflects that. From the handmade mosaic tiles to the quiet hum of jazz playing from the kitchen Sonos. In this sanctuary, Beatrice isn't balancing headlines or engagements. She's balancing bedtime and early Zoom calls, folding tiny socks and reviewing investment decks, laughing, gardening, learning. She's built a life between legacy and simplicity, and maybe that's what makes her story so quietly powerful. Because royalty isn't just inherited. Sometimes it's chosen. In a world of noise, she chose quiet. In a family of tradition, she chose evolution. And in a life shaped by titles, she chose love, purpose, and peace. If this glimpse into Princess Beatrice's countryside sanctuary moved you, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Because behind every gate, there's a story, and we're just getting started.